My feet haven't left these steps. Oh no, I'm not safe just yet. I can feel my walls soften, the ones I put in place with caution. Your voice sounding nice and slow, telling me that I shouldn't go. I can see my heart in this, but you and I have reached our limit. You don't know me, so say goodnight, say goodnight. Some of us have a darker side, darker side. You don't wanna see mine, it's not as simple as black and white. I'm walking with my darker side. My head is a deep blue sea, full of things better left unseen. You don't want to dive in it. Now I'm thinking we're finished. It's not like I don't care for you. It's just that every time I do, I turn a good thing crooked. This time I'm gonna bite the bullet. You don't know me, so say goodnight, say goodnight. Some of us have a darker side, darker side. You don't wanna see mine, it's not as simple as black and white. Walking with my darker side. And if there's a line, I'm not gonna cross it, cause I tend to make messes and then get off on it. I'm changing if the powers that be will let me. Won't make myself vulnerable, not till I'm ready. And I'm done giving in to shallow people. I'm finding my stride, but I'll have to go deeper. I'll have to go deeper. You don't know me, so say goodnight, say goodnight. Some of us have a darker side, darker side. You don't wanna see mine, it's not as simple as black and white. Walking with my darker side.
East Nashville podcast. Who knows what season, who knows what episode, but we're here. I'm tired of counting at this point.
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot of these lately. They're going well. Today we have Luke Boor, Ryan Dishen. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hell yeah.
Definitely.
Let's get the product placement out of the way, or the show placement, I guess. Luke, tell us what's going on. This was all your idea.
So I emailed, I wanted to play a show. I haven't played a show in years, actually. And so I emailed a bunch of different venues in Nashville, and what I got mostly was what's called the LA No. Have you guys heard of this? The LA No is basically just not getting a response.
Okay.
Which is fitting because some might think that Nashville is becoming LA, right?
It's a thing.
So I got the LA No from everyone except the 5 Spot, which is one of the best venues in town in East Nashville.
Definitely.
And they got back to me and they were like, "Yeah, let's put you on a Sunday early show, October 29th." And so I was planning on doing it just kind of unplugged, well, not unplugged, but just acoustic solo.
Yeah.
And thought it would be cool if like the other artists did the same.
Yep.
And so I reached out to Mr. Dishen and you, Frasco, and you guys were like, "Yeah, we'll do it." So we are playing the 5 Spot Sunday, October 29th.
At 6 p.m.
At 6 p.m.
Yeah.
$10 cover.
$10 covers.
$10. We ripping people off or what?
Right?
I'm excited. No, I think it's going to be a great show. And I mean, if the three of us aren't worth $10, who is?
Yeah, right?
Right?
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on board, guys.
Yeah, excited about it. Ryan, I haven't heard you play solo before. Give us like an idea of what your solo stuff is like.
It's hard to say. It's been a long time since that's like been my main focus.
Totally.
So I've got a lot of songs. I think it will depend on what my set ends up being.
Yep.
But ultimately, it's some form of like indie folk with some country leaning and punk
Hell
rock
yeah.
in there a little bit. You know.
How about give us 2 artists as influences to your songwriter sound?
Jackson Brown,
Love that.
and I'd say in some ways like James Mercer from the Shins.
Cool. Hell yeah. Man, I transcribed New Slang recently.
Yeah.
New Slang, right? That's the one, King of the Eyesores. That one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, that
Amen.
song, it's in 2 to start with. And like the measures are all messed up. So you have like, or not messed up, like really creative.
Yeah.
But like, you hear the song, I've heard the song a million times and it slips by you and you're like, oh yeah, it's whatever, blah, blah. And then you start like charting it out and you're like, oh, there's a measure, there's 7 measures there, 8 measures there, 5 measures
Is
there.
that right?
Yeah.
I never noticed it. I've
had
known how to
never
play that
noticed it.
song for a while, and I've
Yeah.
never like realized.
Oh,
that
I'll show
it
you
had
the
some
chart,
weird...
man.
Okay, I believe you.
It's cool you mentioned James Mercer because I'm a big Broken Bells fan.
Okay, yeah.
So
I saw them at the Ryman when they came through.
Really?
That was some years back. It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And Luke, I mean, I know your music, but like for folks who don't, who are the 2 people you would attribute your music sounding like?
well, so for my set, I'm actually doing a couple songs. I put out a couple EPs. I put out an EP called Skeletons in 2014. And then I put out an EP called Take It to Heart in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And those were more like Americana-esque kind of stuff. There's a
Sure.
local guy here named Matthew Perryman Jones who I was definitely like listening to a lot back then.
Cool.
The newer stuff though is, well, so I'm actually releasing a song on the 27th, which is the Friday before the show.
Cool.
So it's going to be a big weekend for me. And that song was a song I did in New York actually a couple of years ago. But that song has more of like a Broken Bells, Shins kind of vibe to
Cool.
it.
What song?
It's called Queens.
Okay.
So yeah, I tracked it and recorded it when I was living in New York. That was a cool experience. I was just in New York and I was a hotel doorman and life was just fast and epic like
Hell yeah.
like the city is.
Yeah.
And I had this and I did this song. But then COVID happened and things just kind of like for the rest of humanity, it just went haywire and I kind of put music on the back burner and
Cool.
It
It happens.
Right. But the song has always been really special to me. And I was just thinking like a couple nights ago, I was like, you know what? I want to put this out first.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that on the 27th. So it'll be a big weekend for me. And
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Can we talk for a second about your song Skeletons?
Sure.
Man, that
I'm playing it.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That song kicks me in the chest, man.
Thank you,
every
dude.
couple of months I find my way back to that song. That's a really I
Thank
think
you.
it's just a really well-written song. It has a way of I feel like just expressing something we all feel you're very succinct about it. You know, there isn't unnecessary words or verses, like you really get to the heart of it really quickly. I love that song.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And we've talked before about like mental health and
Yeah.
like I admit that I've definitely had like my struggles and I think just that song there's that theme to it of
sure.
mental health.
Yeah. And we're going to get to all that, but you're avoiding the question. What are the two artists?
Broken Bells.
All right.
Who else have I been listening to lately?
Oh, there's a dog today on the podcast.
Nice.
This is Lily. She'll pop up every once in a while.
There's actually another local guy that's really great named Mickey Commodore, who I've
Cool.
been listening to a lot. He just put out an album a couple months ago, and I saw him at the 5 Spot, and it's a great album. And so I would have to say, yeah, Mickey Commodore is who I've been,
Cool.
local guy.
Nice.
So-
Nice.
Yeah. Hey. Lily, right?
Lily.
Lily. Hey.
She's the star of the show every
Yeah,
time.
right?
Yeah. It's funny. I've been thinking about this a lot, like, because I'm old. I'm a little older than you guys, I think, right?
Not by much.
Not by much,
Yeah.
but like, do you guys find
What
that
year did you graduate? High school?
high school 2002?
03.
05.
Okay.
Oh, child. Like, as you go through life, you have different identities, right? Like, it's funny, or maybe this doesn't apply to other people. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because about two and a half, maybe 3 years ago, I started playing out again in my fusion trio, and the most common reaction I got from people was, "Oh wow, I didn't know you were a musician," and like, "Oh, what do you mean? Of course I'm a musician," But like, people knew me as an audio engineer. But in my lives before Nashville, everybody kind of knew me as a singer-songwriter sort of guy. Right? And
Like Berkeley days.
not Berkeley days,
No.
but like post-Berkeley Boston and my entire time in New York.
Yeah.
So now I live in Nashville, and like, it's a big weekend for me too, because immediately after our show, I hit my 10-year mark in Nashville.
Wow.
Nobody here knows me as a singer-songwriter. So like, I feel like people are going to show up to see me out of morbid curiosity. Like, well, this guy's going to play some songs and sing. And it should be morbid curiosity because it's been a couple of years for me in terms of a singer-songwriter show.
Well, I mean, that just goes to show, though, that you've done such a great job at like establishing yourself as an audio engineer and as a writer.
Well,
You know what I
And
mean?
forsaking your musicianship.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because, that was my focus, establishing myself as an audio engineer. But yeah, like, it's funny to think back on different periods of your life and how you were perceived or how you defined yourself in those moments. Do you guys find that, or is that just me?
I mean, I understand that because my identity, like I said earlier when you asked me about my songs, it's like that was kind of my musician identity for a long time, like
Yeah.
singer-songwriter. And then you move here and there's just so many different, like, sort of things you can do with music.
Yeah.
If you,
And when I think of you as a punk rock guy nowadays.
well, that's kind of always been, that's how I started out, just
Okay.
playing in punk bands. And but I'd gotten away from that for a long time, Even playing music with Ben Douglas, who's the other, main guy in Slump Test, and we play with Twan and our buddy Drew. I played in his band for a while, doing like lead guitar
Yeah.
and singing harmonies with him, and that was much more of like an Americana type thing.
Yeah.
And we got kind of bored with the acoustic guitars and everyone doing that, so we're like, let's just make some punk rock, and that's been fun.
Cool. Yeah, let's talk about you for a second. What's your problem, man? All this talent.
I don't
Like,
know.
you're a great guitar player, great piano player, great drummer, great singer, great writer.
Well, that might come back to those different lives and the different things that you're doing. And
Yeah.
Nashville's, like I said, it's opened those opportunities to just explore more avenues of musicianship. You know? And I've always been into composing and arranging parts for various instruments. So just having a space here where I can set up drums and like start doing that. I mean, that first Slump Test gig was the first performance I ever did as a drummer. And that was probably like 2017 or
And it was a
maybe
great show.
18 or
It was a
something.
blast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's something I've noted about you as long as I've known you, is like, you're not somebody who just talks about stuff. You get out and you do it. And going back to what Luke was saying about mental health, I think that's where my mental health often fails me, is just the amount of anticipation and apprehension I feel about any given thing. The idea that, I can play a little bit of drums, but to get out there as a drummer when drums aren't even anywhere near my main instrument, like, I just wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it because the sheer anxiety of it I would collapse under it.
Well, playing drums for me has been kind of an anxious thing, only because it isn't like, I don't consider myself a drummer. I just can kind of play some drums, There's lots of limitations within that for myself, like what sort of band. Like, I'm probably wouldn't be able to hang in your jazz fusion thing, you know. But
Okay.
it's like, and nor am I just gonna like pick it. Like I have to practice. So it's like if I'm
Yeah.
learning a song, I can learn the parts. Especially if it's something that I get to arrange the drums for, then I feel more confident. You know, I've done gigs where I've had to learn the drums from like a record that someone else played, and that gets me a little more stressed. But that's also what I've used to try to develop skills in a practical setting, like
Sure.
to play drums on stage, especially with like folk kind of certain pop music. Like the idea is just playing a beat and making it feel good. You know, there's
Totally.
not a lot of, you know, technical shit going on there. You know,
I mean, but you're still the backbone of the band, you know? If you're screwing up, the whole band's train wrecking.
it's true. There's a weird responsibility with drums that you know, other instruments you can flub a little and it's cool. Maybe it'll even be artistic in a way. Drums, like you drop the drumstick, you're getting looks, you know, and
Totally.
and the audience is going, this guy sucks. You know?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so you just got to deal with that, and if you make a mistake, it's not that big a deal, you know.
And I don't remember if it was the first Slump Test show or within a couple shows, not only were you playing drums, but you were playing drums and singing at the same
Yeah, you
time.
remind me of Don Henley.
Yeah, really. Come on, man. And that's why I'm giving you a hard time, because every time I see you, you're doing something different. You're doing something more involved, something that I haven't seen you do before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I try to just stay interested in music, so maybe
Yeah.
that's part of it. I've never been that into like guitar music, so I've never like studied guitar in a way that like I just wanted to be as good at that as possible. I just wanted to write songs, so singing's always been kind of my favorite thing to do with music. So guitar is just a way to make music and then sing on top of that, and that's kind of the approach I took with piano as well. Was I just wanted to be able to play
And
chords.
tuba, don't forget tuba.
And tuba, yeah. I haven't quite gotten there yet. but-
So, Luke, I think of you as a very California sound. Do you think that's right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I did live in California. I lived in LA and I went to Musicians Institute, which is a music college.
Yeah.
It's no Berkeley, but it's
come on.
It's not do re mi. It's 1 2 3.
Really?
know?
Did
Yeah.
they do that?
Yeah. Well, they like the what do you call it?
What do you do when you do a minor scale? Do you have to say flat 3?
Yeah.
Really? While
well-
you're singing?
Right. But
I'm indicting the whole system.
yeah.
How dare they do that?
yeah, right. But I went to MI and I had a pop punk band out there called Assemble the Skyline. So I spent a lot of time in LA. So yeah, I think that maybe like that California kind of sound has kind of stuck with me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
Like that pop punk thing is very, even though your newer music isn't pop punk per se, that sound is still definitely there. That influence is definitely there.
thanks, man. Yeah, no, and I've definitely gotten. I mean, I grew up on pop punk. I mean, honestly, like the reason I picked up, well, the first instrument I ever picked up was an Ibanez bass.
Hell yeah.
And I discovered Blink.
Was it a sound gear?
I don't remember.
Okay.
My dad got it for me out of a Musician's Friend magazine.
It was definitely a sound gear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, sorry.
Ibanez
Blink-182.
Was it red?
It was black.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only two colors they make.
Yeah, black Ibanez bass, and I just got hooked on Blink-182's Enema of the State and just started trying to just write songs. I was like 13, 14.
That's cool.
Yeah. So pop punk has always, definitely been an inspiration for me. And like you said, like, you know, it's the stuff I'm doing now may not be that, but there's still like.
Oh yeah, your whole life experience goes into your writing, no matter who you are.
Right.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
so does the music that influences you and kind of shapes your mind. Like, I don't think that ever leaves, especially something like punk. It's almost like part of an identity. Like, for me, I was skateboarding and punk rock, and those kind of, the outlook of those groups of people is like kind of a lot of my philosophies, you know, just
Very cool.
in a feeling, you know. It's,
Right.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
skateboarding and punk rock were...
Right. And if we're talking about California, we have to mention In-N-Out. And Nashville, I think, is getting an In-N-Out.
Yeah, but it's like years down the road.
Yeah.
Don't tell me that.
But it'll be here. I think they're gonna blow it too. I don't think Tennessee's gonna get it right.
No.
No. Yeah, it's like when I haven't seen it yet, but I'm really concerned about this Frasier reboot. Like that's gonna be.
I lose sleep about that too.
Yeah,
you know,
that's gonna be Tennessee's In and Out. It's just gonna be like, there's some continuity issues. It's not really working.
Oh no.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm concerned about this Frasier thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it's bad, you'll have In and Out to cheer you up, maybe.
I hope so.
Bad
unless it's bad, then you'll just have like a double whammy of
Then I'm going to
disappointment.
Five Guys because I think that's my favorite fast food burger.
Five Guys is good.
Five Guys is good.
Yeah.
In and Out's great, but I'm going Five Guys.
I'm not interested in this conversation because
Well.
I'm kidding.
I'm from California.
No, I love In and
that's
Out.
what
I'm just saying I don't want to get in an argument here. We don't need to
okay.
fight about cheeseburgers, but
Just throwing
Yeah.
beers at each
If
other.
Tennessee screws up In and Out, though, fuck.
So you are from California.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that.
Yes.
Because you're from Texas.
I'm from Texas. Whataburger is our thing. If we're still
Oh, I
on
thought you were
cheeseburgers.
naming the town you were from.
No. Whataburger is our fast food.
yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. You're from Galveston?
I'm
Is that
from
right?
Galveston, Texas. It is a coastal town. It's not the nicest beach, but it's still a beach. It was a cool place to grow up.
Yeah.
So I still say y'all.
Mardi Gras is pretty fun down there too.
Yeah, they have Mardi Gras. It's actually
This is my favorite part in every episode. The first time Phil speaks.
talks. Yeah,
from off camera. Yeah.
yeah. Phil and I had definitely some Mardi Gras adventures down there in Galveston.
And that's a fun thing about this episode is like Phil always chimes in. Phil always like really adds something. But I think this is the first time the
There's
guest
a history.
has known Phil longer than I've known Phil.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell us about Phil. Give us some dirt. To completely change the subject.
Phil was. I met Phil. I was in LA. And
Very ill-fated tour.
yeah, but I really got to know Phil when my band Assembled Skyline went on tour. We went on like a West Coast tour, and Phil just kind of came along, and
Yeah.
he had no responsibilities.
Yeah, I just had nothing better to do at the time.
Yeah, he had nothing better to do at the time, and he was just there with us, like literally for months. Phil was just there, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
May I ask? You've told me before that you kind of like spent a summer following Warped Tour.
Yeah,
Was this?
I did not
Were you
do
involved
that.
in that?
Oh, good
Okay.
God, no.
we did
No,
that
that was-
though too.
What did
That
you do
was
exactly?
them in a Prius.
Them in a Prius. That's cool.
For Warped Tour, I mean, unsigned bands could just like post up outside of the Warped Tour, like before it opened, and there was the line of kids, and you just sold your CD for like $5. You had
Nice.
like an iPod with headphones, and you were like, "Hey, do you want to listen to this?"
I bet people love that.
People liked it.
Mayday
it was
Parade's
really,
entire career is based on
I was
They
kind of
sold, like,
joking
15
because I don't
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
like when
It's a
people hand
legit
me
thing.
headphones and be like, "This is gonna change your life," and you're like, "Probably
Probably
not,
not.
dude." Yeah,
Yeah.
the kids were really into it.
ear
and
infections, though.
Money
Yeah,
was,
ear infections is the
Yeah.
You made a lot of fans though, which was really cool. And like, yeah, we followed the entire tour across the country, except for Canada, because we were too lazy to get the passports.
What did you do while it was in Canada? Did you just kind of?
I
You
think
guys
we
just
hung
hang out in Seattle?
Yeah, exactly. But that was cool. I mean, the kids were really into it and into just like, even if you weren't playing Warped Tour, they were still down to just like listen to your music, you know?
It was a different time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what year was this?
2011.
Oh. Warped Tour was like a different scene at that point.
Yeah. I'm thinking
I've-
Warped Tour like 2000, like 1999, 2000.
The first one I went to was like 2000 or 2001.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It was
Same.
still very punk rock at that point, like
Totally.
bad bands like No Effects and Bad Religion,
Pennywise.
Pennywise, Rancid,
MXPX.
Me
I think
First.
Fear was there the first time, and
Yeah.
Me First, yeah.
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 Flogging
Wow,
Molly,
Me
things
First. I
like
haven't thought
that.
about them in a long time.
Yeah,
2011 was just like screamo.
yeah.
That's funny. Like, all of us kind of go back to those punk rock roots. I was never really a punk rocker at all. Like,
But you played Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
no,
No,
I'm a
really?
total poser.
That's how a lot of
I
people
s-
got into punk rock.
I
Actually, through that
skateboarded.
video game. Yeah,
I skateboarded like
Oh, because of the music. Because what was on there. Yeah.
I skateboarded until the day I got my driver's license, and I never touched a skateboard again.
so it's just a means of transportation.
Exactly.
for you.
It was just like I want to go to my friend's house. I want to go to a girl's house. Like, I just want to go somewhere other than where I am.
And nothing is hotter than showing up to a girl's house.
Just
sweaty
out
as
of
hell.
hell.
Because you skateboarded a
Yeah,
mile to get
yeah,
there.
I skated here
So
or
you go,
whatever.
I just shredded. It's cool.
Yeah. You want to see my best ollie? That's all I can do.
Only fell 3 times.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember so many terrible kick flips. I once just before I was about to get my driver's license, I could really kick flip pretty well. But before that, it was just years of terrible unlanded kick flips.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Skateboarding's very hard, and it takes a lot of courage because it's really just about committing, and you either land it, you get close, or you break an ankle or
It's
or
mostly
whatever.
pain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you
Like
got to be
100%.
The
courageous about it.
shins, man.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
shins get so ripped up learning tricks.
Yeah, the Shins are a great band.
Yeah, it's great. Man, that's so funny. Okay, so let's go back to the mental health idea because I think that's an important thing to cover here in terms of just talking about music, talking about musicians, right? Every artist, and Lily's back.
Yeah,
She's like, I was supposed to be
she's
the
a
guest.
therapy dog.
Yeah,
so
she,
she's like, I know. Let me say something. I know.
yeah,
things.
You have no idea. This
Yeah.
dog really is. Ashley, she's a rescue dog. Ashley got her at the pound, but like our running theory is she was somebody's therapy dog, and that person must have like passed away or something like that.
Yeah, she's so like open and friendly.
Yeah,
Usually
yeah.
rescues are kind of right. I mean,
Yeah. She's very non-skittish. She just wants to be everybody's buddy. Anyway, getting back to our podcast. Yeah, I think it's an important thing to cover. Like when you're talking about music and musicians, not only the physical things that can happen after years of performing, but like some of the mental health stuff that goes into performing, writing, and just some of it that leads to being an artist in the first place. Do you guys feel like mental health stuff brought you to music? Or brought you to art in general?
I think that music is when I'm sitting around writing or when I'm on stage, that's when I am like the most free, I guess. And I'm not in my head.
Okay.
Every other, at work, like any other time, I'm just always in my head, and it's called rumination. I'm just overthinking all the time, except when I'm like fleshing out a song or trying to come up with lyrics or melodies, or when I'm on stage. And that's interesting because one would think that like being on stage, playing in front of people would be like, it's just nerve-wracking and would
Totally.
But that's not the case for me.
That's
anyway.
great.
Yeah. So music for me is actually more of a release, like from that constant kind of overthinking cage that I find myself in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's escapism in a way, isn't it? But
Yeah.
it's not just sort of passive escapism. I think that it makes you feel bigger. It expands your mind and your soul a little bit, and I think it gives your spirit like a place to be for a moment where it's just existing in that thing.
Yeah, it
So
gives you a
it-
chance to kind of commit to identity of the moment almost.
Yeah, and so whatever was going on at home, like what age
Yeah.
did you start playing an instrument? Like for me, it was like 14, so it was at a time where I kind of was able to like, my family was being nuts or whatever. Like you can just kind of sit there and play, and they've always been cool with that. But it was one way to just like make a space for myself that no one else in my family played music.
Yeah.
Like in my immediate family, but.
Well,
One of my uncles got me into it, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you wrote a great article about Eddie Van Halen and how that kind of really brought you out of.
Yeah, that was a big thing for me growing up was just listening to music as an escape from depression that I didn't even understand yet. Yeah, and the desire to play music was there from a very young age, but it didn't turn into something until like 5th grade when I went to this Montessori school that was like, because of traffic, it was like an hour away.
What is Montessori?
I to this day I don't really even know.
Oh,
It's an education system for
Yeah, it's some sort of
pre-elementary education.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically public school that they make you pay for,
okay.
as I recall. It has a little bit more freedom, but I think I just used that as a way to escape doing homework. But like, yeah, all my friends lived an hour away from me.
Really?
So I think that's
It's
when
pretty isolated. I mean,
exactly. That's when I got really into playing guitar. Was when it just felt like there was, it's before smartphones, before the internet. There was quite literally nothing else to do.
Right.
You can only, especially because you're not going to play outside by yourself as a 5th grader, 6th grader. Yeah, so there was just like nothing else to do. And so I went to guitar lessons and I would just sit and practice. And yeah, the more I listened to different stuff, the more I got really obsessive about it, And yeah, that Eddie Van Halen thing was about that record, Right Here, Right Now. It was a live record. And I mean, I can't even imagine how many hours in my pre-teen years I spent listening to that album. Yeah. What about you guys? Is there a record? Is there a certain album or a certain artist that you associate with those formative years of doing music, of wanting to play music or starting to play music?
For me, it was punk rock albums. And I mean, what's cool about that is just it's fairly simple in some ways, just power chords. So if once you start learning guitar, and that's kind of what I went to, but it's very rhythmic. So strumming and having good timings, I guess, is kind of important in that particular genre.
Totally.
But I feel like, bands like Pennywise and stuff were influential, and they, there were some of those records that I played a lot and knew every word. You know?
And it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about playing the drums, where it's like, it's not so much about technical ability and mastery. It's just like, let's make this rhythmic,
feeling.
Let's make it fun, let's make it, with
It needs to feel cool, that's the main thing. And bands like the Ramones were able to kind of capture that and be like, this is how music can be. It still sounds good. There's harmonies, there's rhythm. People want to move to it. You can't help it.
Yeah.
It's energy.
Totally.
That's not really what the question you were asking, but
No, but it's the same thing.
yeah.
I remember before I picked up the Ibanez bass and was playing Blink.
Yeah.
I was a kid in the kitchen hitting pots and pans, playing along to Steve Miller Band.
That's awesome.
So,
tell us more.
it was that greatest hits record that had like the blue horse on it.
Yeah.
From like 1970 something to, but I mean like Fly Like an Eagle and like all that was on there. And,
Totally.
I remember
Joker
that.
and
Joker. Yeah. My parents always had like Eagles on too, so I was always loving that as a kid.
What's your relationship with the Eagles now?
I still love them. Is that a bad thing? Is that
I don't know. It's so in vogue to hate the Eagles.
yeah?
That's because
right.
of Big
Big
Lebowski.
yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think so.
I hate the Eagles, man.
Yeah, I love that movie, but yeah, I hear more and more people talk about how they dislike the Eagles.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear people say, no, I kind of like it.
Oh, it's really freaking good.
Yeah.
Good
harmonies. And
Yeah, good harmonies, good overall songwriting.
Right.
Lily.
First cassette tape, I think it was Purple by Stone Temple Pilots.
Oh, cool.
Man.
But that was before I played guitar. That was just me just digging on music.
Stone Temple Pilots are forever a big one with me. I think, for me, those formative years, and it's like Van Halen was the very beginning, but from there it was really grunge rock. Nirvana and Stone Temple Pilots specifically.
It's funny, some of that stuff is kind of dated when you listen to it, but I think a lot of the Stone Temple Pilots stuff still, it hits. Like, the talent's there.
Yeah. And in terms of like sophisticated, smart guitar playing, from that era, it's all about Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
Like, their guitar player and bass player, they're brothers.
The brothers, yep.
And it was just all so good and so well put together. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew their stuff. They still do. They're still doing it.
They're still doing it, yeah. Who's the singer now, do you know?
I don't know.
All right, so dead end there. Next topic.
This is fun.
Yeah, I told you. It's like, it's chill. We have a good time. Phil chimes in every once in a while.
Yeah.
The dog wants to go out. It's like...
Right?
Okay, so let's talk about Nashville. You're from Texas. You're from California. How'd you end up here?
So I was in LA.
And when?
Okay, so I first moved to Nashville in 2014, and I was here until 2016. And I was into it while I was here. And then the country took a turn in 2016, and things got really conservative, and I just decided, like, maybe I would want to go somewhere, I don't know, just a bluer city.
Yeah.
So I moved to New York, and then...
Is that bluer than Texas?
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
A little bit, right?
So I was in New York for a few years. COVID happened, and then my parents split up, and my mom moved to Nashville because she's originally from Memphis.
Okay.
So she was a big fan of Nashville. So she came to Nashville, and I was like, well, I could be close to my mom. So I decided to come back here. So I've been back here since 2021, and I'm loving it. There were a couple years where I wasn't doing music, but being back here has made me just fall in love with songwriting all over again.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to do as much as I can just to soak that in.
Now, we were talking before about that feeling of constantly being anxious, constantly being in your head. How did that go in New York for you?
It was interesting.
Because New York's such a intense place to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything was great until COVID hit. So before COVID, I was living the high life. Like I said, I was a doorman in New York City at a hotel in the financial district,
Wow.
right by the 9/11 memorial. So every
Yeah.
time I ran around the corner and got a cab, One World Trade was right there.
Yeah.
It was just so cool, and it was wild and in your face, and I loved every minute of it. And I just handled my own, and I worked hard, and I got into arguments with cabbies every day. And,
Yeah. Well, there's something about anxiety that just works with New York, right?
Right.
Everybody's got anxiety. We're all rushing around like maniacs when we live in New York.
Right. But then COVID hit and everything shut down. The streets were empty. The hospitals were filling up. I lost my job. I was in my small studio apartment on my own.
Yeah.
And then that's when the anxiety really started forming.
Yeah.
It was originally about getting the virus itself, but
Sure.
then it kind of turned into just something else, just anxiety in general.
Yeah. Well, just real isolation.
Right. And you were talking about being isolated before and how guitar helped you. And I wish during those days, man, I had a Gibson Songwriter Deluxe under my bed. Why didn't I grab that? Why didn't I get that thing out there and start playing?
Yeah. I think we all have that about COVID, though.
Yeah.
There's so much productive stuff that could, and some people did do it. And I had the same complex about it looking back, is that I could have accomplished so much during 2020, but I think the anxiety of the moment was so high that it was hard
To accomplish anything.
to really focus in, because it just felt like you had this window to an apocalypse, right? You had this window to the world, the entire world grinding to a halt.
Yeah.
And it felt, it's, like rubbernecking on the highway when there's an accident across the way from you. It's it's hard to take your eyes off the world crumbling in front of you like you never expected it to.
Right.
But so many people did great creative things during that time, I didn't. I couldn't.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's the thing with art. Like, you have to, well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people have made wonderful art while feeling like shit, you know? So that anxiety has stuck with me, and it's still very much there, like in my day-to-day life. And sometimes I just get frustrated with myself because I look back at my earlier days in New York, and I was like, well, pre-COVID, I was, well, how did I do that? I was just on top of the world, not a care in the world. Making things happen for myself. And now I'm just like a shell of that person, it feels like. Now I'm just anxious about just everything.
I don't think you're alone in that, though. I think a lot of people are there. Like, I mean, for me, I'm always wondering, is it age? Am I just getting older and slowing down? Like, I don't know, but I think that period had a profound effect on people's psychology, because we're not, and now, like, things aren't better. It's not like COVID's kind of like chill, but like the rest of what's going on, like,
it's still not good.
There's these wars happening, like what just happened last week.
Things are still fucked up.
So we're kind of all like living in this existential sort of dread moment that hasn't gone away, and maybe has gotten worse, but
that's true.
But we can at least get out again, but I think a lot of people don't feel like they even want to leave the house still. There's still this kind of like, those who are still anxious about it. I know people who just lived like the pandemic never happened. They were still out partying like crazy, and they didn't slow down, you know. Yeah. But for those of us that did, I think it's harder to get moving again. I mean, I just started working a job this year where I'm like leaving the house now and interacting, you know, with the public, and it's been healthy for me. But when I get home, I'm done. I'm like,
you're socially just burnt.
Oh yeah, it's intense.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think you're right. Maybe I'm being too hard on myself. I think that things are still really hard out there.
But it's just a different world. It's a different world than it was. Yeah. What was your relationship to art during 2020, or during the whole thing?
For me, it was kind of cool, like the art thing, because for me, like I said, I've always used it as a way of escaping. So But I also am like at a point at this age, and like I have a house, so I've just filled it with instruments, and so it's like that to me is more like my existence is. So it's like with everything else shutting down, I was like, okay, now I just get to be here with instruments, and I had time because I got laid off, so it was like, oh cool, I just get to play instruments. And I practiced I spent the first like 6 months, it was a lot of piano, just like hours a lot, like every day. And I got married right at the beginning of the pandemic. We'd had a wedding plan, and we canceled that, but then still got married. So my wife and I started out just being like a retired couple, which I don't think it wasn't good, because we were just like home alone, just cooking dinner every night. Like we never went out to eat or anything, and that was fine. But it was weird, and it was a very weird transition. And like we'd been together for a long time before we'd gotten married, so it wasn't like.
But all of a sudden, it feels like you're so settled.
Well, yeah, and then everything else changed at the same moment, because we got married on March 21st. So I mean, it was like a week after the shutdown, or what I mean, or right before. Like I don't even remember that exact timeline, but I know it was March, and that was pretty much it. And the day we got married, our good friend Meredith, who you
she's been a guest.
Yeah, of course. And so she brought a violin over for me, and I started messing around with that. A lot of neck aches involved. And then I'm really into classical music as well. So I spent a whole month just doing like 8-hour days where I was just kind of trying to arrange some sort of orchestral music. I wouldn't necessarily call it classical, but some of the things that kind of got me going was just like writing this piano piece. I was like, maybe I could arrange this with some like strings and stuff. And then I did a couple of things where I like took like a folk song I'd written, and then just like did SATB like 4-part voice writing for strings, and then added oboes and horns and stuff. And it's all MIDI, so it sounds like MIDI, because I didn't learn how to like add proper dynamics, but the parts are written, and I think that's pretty exciting. So that's what I got into during the COVID times.
That's cool. That's kind of what I expected from you, because like
Yeah.
it just, this stuff seems to like, whatever anxiety you're feeling seems to empower you.
It has to. I don't know what else to do. I'm kind of a nervous wreck in general. But Katie, my wife, and Ben Douglas and I had started like this TV show during COVID as well.
Yeah, let's talk about
called
Swill
Swill
TV. Yeah.
And it was just like, there's so many great artists in town, and just artists that we know from various places, tours, and travels, you know. It was kind of like an old MTV style YouTube thing where Ben would make videos, and sometimes people would send videos they'd already made, but just music videos. And then Katie and I we were VJs, so we'd like do introductions and just really bizarre skits, kind of, and then we do live shows at the 5 Spot. Yeah,
It felt almost like the music breaks in Beavis and Butthead.
kind of, yeah.
You know, that sort of aesthetic.
Yeah, and we didn't know what we were doing, but Ben works at the 5 Spot, so he you know, he'd been knowing all kinds of acts through that time, and just got into making some sort of visual videos, and we grinded. I think we did like 20 episodes. 15 of them we hosted, and then we kind of stopped hosting. It was a lot of work, you know. It was a lot of, and once kind of the things opened up a little more, it became a lot with work, gigs, and doing that. But it's not over. We got an episode we got to put together still, but
Cool.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Swill TV was a big inspiration to me in terms of this podcast.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, I remember sitting at the 5 Spot with you and saying like, man, you and Katie, you just do it. Like, you guys don't spend the time, or it feels like you don't spend the time worrying about, you know, all the shit you're supposed to worry about in terms of, well, what market or what's the demographic, and, you know, what's the image going to be like, and you guys just do it.
Well, Ben, I trust Ben as an artist and a collaborator, and he, you know, visually, if he thought something was cool, you know, it is. And it works. And so, just the combination of when we've collaborated with things, I've always been impressed with it. So it's you don't question that so much. But back to the hard work, it's like we did 20 episodes once a month. You know, we might have taken 1 month off at Christmas, like one of the year, you know, but so it was a lot of work, and it was consistent. But it took away from other things as well, you know, like just maybe making records or other things. But
I mean, it was something new you guys were doing. It was an artistic endeavor. It wasn't, you know.
And it's a historical document at this point, because we did bring in a lot of cool local acts, and you know, just had their music on there. One of the bands was some dudes, a punk rock band that I'd met when I was in the Netherlands at one time. Cool. They were on it. We had people just, you know, from LA and other places, but it was mostly Nashville acts.
Cool.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you're saying about Ben, I feel like fills that voice in my head. That like, if Phil says it looks good and it's all running well, I'm like, okay, well, he knows.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, well, when we were first talking about doing this podcast, I originally reached out to Phil and I was like, hey, will you give me some pointers on how to, you know, set up iPhones or GoPros, or, you know, and what I should do to make it look good? Because at that point I was thinking, well, if I wanted Phil to come in here and do this, it'd probably cost me $10,000 an episode.
Right.
So he's like, oh, just let me come in. And I was like, okay, so do we need to like black out this whole room, or should we do it in another room? Or it feels like, no, just sit at the counter. Just be comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those, I think, I don't know, I get really in my head about the idea that, oh, if we're gonna make something, we're gonna put it on YouTube. Oh, it better be slick. We better build a set. And then we should do some focus groups. Like, even though 7 people are going to watch each episode, we better focus group it first, you know?
Right.
I think that's kind of a challenge with art and music. Like, is what's your intention, and like, is it about marketing something? You know, is it a product, or is it just like something you want to make because you believe in this thing? You know, whether And maybe that's small thinking, but like if you just make something that you like and you're making art for yourself and you like it and your friend likes it or whatever, then there's probably other people that would like it out there, and you just kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. You know, as far as writing music, like you should like your songs, because if you don't like it, why would anyone else? So write a song that you can't hear. So you write the song that you want to feel or whatever, and
that's why it's not small thinking.
Maybe, I don't know, but also with everything else, try to overanalyze shit. But concerning writing, you know, you just kind of have an instinct for it, and you just try not to overthink that. And that's another thing I liked about working with Ben Douglas is I think we just kind of can make an artistic decision, and you just trust that, and it doesn't have to be so sacred and precious. It's just a song. That's all it is, you know. And you can write 10 more or 100 more. If you don't like that one, just write another song. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I think there's something about this culture we're in now of like, oh, well, you know, if you have one song that goes viral, well, now you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
You know, and now you have an audience and a platform and this and that. And I think as good as that can be for artists to get that platform, I think, I don't know, sometimes it leads to that overthinking, that precious standpoint towards every little thing. That it's just an excuse not to make art. It's just an excuse to overthink rather than, well, I'm just going to sit down and, like you said, I'm going to write the song that I want to hear today.
Right. I think, like, for me, the challenge is, like, wanting so bad to go viral or wanting so bad to, like, have
just be heard.
Right. That's what I've been dealing with, just, like, frustration over, like, just streaming numbers and logistics like that. I get so excited about like what I'm doing, and then I kind of look at the numbers and I'm just like, well, shit, like that's not, it needs to be higher, it needs to be better. And then it makes it like not fun.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Definitely robs some of the joy out of it.
Yeah.
But you gotta kind of feel like, or understand that people aren't not listening to it because they don't want to listen to it. They might not want to listen to it, but most of the time, like if you're not a big name, they're just not hearing it. They don't even know it exists.
So much
they don't know.
So you don't have streams because no one knows it's there. I mean, that's the thing. And so do you have a lot of money behind it to promote it? Like the things that do get big, there are some viral things on the, you know, underground folks that just get something that catches fire. But a lot of the stuff that's getting those millions of play, there's people trying to. They're invested in that, and they're trying to get their money back.
Right. Yeah. And I think often we're led to believe that infrastructure didn't exist.
It's all talent, and the best thing's going to be heard. And it's like, no
way.
Especially now when everyone's making records in their bed. Like there's so much music coming out every single day.
Yeah. It's such a funny difference in the landscape between now and 20 years ago, when like 20 years ago there was like 10 bands in the world. Right. Like
labels were the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
They had say over everything.
Yeah. Totally. Do you like Nirvana or do you like Gloria Estefan? Like pick a side.
Right.
I can't. I love them both.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Those mambo beats, they get to me every time.
Yeah, Nirvana did good mambo beats.
The finest.
The finest. That's right.
Yeah, it's that whole thing, like, and like I said, that's what I really admire about you, Ryan, is that like you're always just pushing forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate hearing that. It doesn't feel that way. It just seems like a constant grind, and you know, trying to just not care about success or numbers is hard, you know, because you want people to hear. But I feel like for me, I ultimately just make music because I like doing it. So, So I've always kind of just kept a job, you know. So I didn't have to like rely on music to be my income, but I still can make a little money doing music from time to time, which is great, you know. But it's not paying the bills. And I don't know if it ever will, and I'm kind of okay with that.
Yeah.
Would I like to have just the freedom to make money doing music so I continue to just kind of live like 2020? but without all the, the fear.
Yeah.
And I could still go out and get beers with my homies and have a social life if I wanted. That was the hardest part about the COVID year, was just like, you don't have a choice. If I go home and want to not go out, it's like, I feel like I have more of a choice now, and we certainly did before. It's like, do I want to go get drinks? No, I'm tired tonight, but
maybe tomorrow night.
Yeah, knowing it was there.
Not in 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't know what was going to happen then, so yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, like, I make my living off of music, but I don't make my living off of performing. Mm-hmm. And that's a big difference too. Like, that's kind of what's led to my fusion trio. We're not doing anything right now because the other two guys make their living performing. Mm-hmm. And so it's been the summer, and that's the height of it all, especially downtown and touring.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, these dudes need to go out and make money.
Yeah, the bass player and the drummer are
they're both
performers.
Keyboard player and drummer are both performers by trade, right? So they make their entire living off that. So we play these jazz fusion shows and we make a couple of $100, but it's not, it's a labor of love.
Right.
It's something that, it's not fair of me in the height of the summer to say, hey guys, let's try to get 3 rehearsals in and play a show.
When they got so much going on.
Yeah, when they could probably be making $600, $700, $800 a night.
Wow. Doing
big Broadway things or doing tour things. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But for me, it's kind of, I kind of think of it as a privilege because I get to go out and play this weird music.
Yeah.
And not, like, it doesn't matter if everybody in the audience hates it.
Right.
Because, I can pay the guys out of what I make from my other music endeavors. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not gonna not eat if everyone's like, wow, jazz fusion sucks. I don't know why I came to this tonight. It's nice to have that freedom.
Yeah.
Where your livelihood isn't whether people like or dislike your music. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
even though the dream is, of course, to, become a bazillionaire because people love your music so much, there's still a freedom to not having to care.
Right. And this, like I mentioned earlier, this town presents a lot of musical opportunities maybe, or just avenues to explore. Yeah. And performance is an interesting thing as well because, like, how are you performing? Who are you performing with? Is it a cover gig? You know, which is out there. I do country gigs downtown. I just mainly solo acoustic, and I was singing
for 4 hour sets.
Do 4 hours of 80s and 90s country music.
And I asked you, do you ever repeat songs? And you said no.
No, not unless someone's tipping you to play a song that you already did. But I don't like to repeat them.
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet though to play 4 hours. And that's impressive.
I mean, it feels it's like when you first start doing that, it seems impossible.
Yeah.
But there's so many dudes doing it, and ladies, of course. But there's people.
Yeah.
I use dude as a term of everyone. Dude is non-gender, but
dude is an all-encompassing.
It is. Yeah, I call my mom dude all the time.
Yeah, that was my early 20s for me. I would do the 3-4 hour sets.
Oh, wow.
Can't imagine doing them now, just especially on acoustic guitar. I messed up my shoulder one night doing 3 hours doing this over my over the body of a dreadnought.
Yeah, dreadnoughts are evil.
Yeah, they'll really mess you up.
Yeah.
Lily.
Mm-hmm.
But so you can perform in a creative project. Are you a sideman? Are you the person in charge? I mean, all that is out there, and various levels become more challenging to make your living performing.
Yeah.
If you're going to just be the artist, or just do cover band things.
And and who you're playing for matters. I remember in my 20s, I had gigs every weekend in Faneuil Hall in Boston. Mm-hmm. And why that mattered was I was always playing for tourists. So when you're playing for tourists, I mean, it really doesn't even matter if you're playing originals or covers because you're not building a local fan base. These people are just going home, right? And
maybe I have another theory on that,
Ooh,
which
hear
isn't. It depends what kind of music you're doing, but like let's take Broadway for instance. These people come to Nashville to hear music.
Yes.
So maybe it's different than where you were playing where there were just some tourists, but like Nashville, they want to hear music.
yeah. But do you feel like they want to hear original music? What is that?
It
dog
depends.
doing? Lily.
It depends,
On
but
Broadway,
if
no.
you maybe well, I
Really?
play originals when I play
Really?
downtown, not for 4 hours, but like I definitely will play original songs, and it depends like how busy is the bar. Like, are you crushing it? Like you feel out who's there, and some people will go, well, what do you do? It just depends.
Yeah.
Like who's hanging out that night, but. The fact is you're there's just so much exposure, and if you have one of those gigs where there's like hundreds of people there every night, like they're following your Instagram. So
Cool.
if you're then posting original stuff on Instagram, like you're telling me they're not gonna maybe be a fan, go and follow your Spotify. Like you could use that opportunity very strategically. Some
Yeah.
people are like, I don't want my art to be mixed up with what I do down there, and it's like. What, playing music live and singing for people? Are you a vocalist? Like,
Yeah, it's
that's
insane.
literally the opportunity, as opposed to booking a local gig at a dive club where, like, only your friends are going to come if they're not tired of hearing your shit. And that doesn't move the needle at all. So
No.
I think that there may be more opportunity for exposure at, like, playing regularly for lots of people that then live in Indiana, Kentucky.
That's a good point.
And then if they're following you, then you set up a touring circuit. You're actually making fans that.
Yeah.
So playing in Nashville downtown could be kind of like.
That's a good point. Like when I was doing that stuff, there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't Spotify.
Right.
Like you were just trying to sell your CD.
And that might work too. Like it's a good
Yeah.
souvenir in Nashville. So
Sure.
I think there are people that are doing it and getting a name for their artistry. But if you're just singing like like the modern pop country stuff
Yeah.
just for the money, they're probably not going to care too much about your original stuff. But you will develop maybe a small following.
You gotta
Or
start
bigger.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. There, like the whole way of how do you start a following in this world?
How do you do it?
Yeah. Do you do it like the tried and true way before social media was just going out and playing shows? And just going out and playing shows wherever you could get a gig and hoping that people liked it and said, oh, let us know, like put us on your email list and let us know when you're coming back to
Yeah.
town,
Now that Warped Tour's done, like we really have no outlet to get them
Yeah,
get
there's
it out
no
there.
there's no crowd you can walk up to with an iPod and headphones being like,
Yeah.
dude, listen to this, it's gonna change your life.
Yeah, but there's definitely like I don't know, I guess the like what, but at the same time it's like, these like John Mayer and like Ed Sheeran, they're all, they're playing Bridgestone and these fans are showing up. So there's definitely like fans here, not just like what I get afraid of is like, well, what if I get some stickers and flyers and like go out to a show and just try promoting?
Yeah,
and it's just all musicians who don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Playing for musicians is rough because
Yeah.
it's always this thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what's this guy gonna play? Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, those are intimidating gigs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, especially for me, like if I'm drumming and some of my friends are out there that play drums, I'm like, they're all gonna know I'm a imposter,
Yeah.
They already know, anyways.
I don't know, man. I still feel that way playing guitar in Nashville. Playing
Oh,
guitar is just like, oof. Yeah.
Some of my least favorite gigs was playing lead guitar because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like I'm not a lead guitar player. If I write a solo or parts, I'm happy with those. But just having the the chops to always pull it off. It's like no, because I would write my guitar solos,
Yeah.
and then try to play them like I'd written them, and I'd always typically write things that I'd have to practice, and it's not just there for me.
Yeah.
You said that you're going to play electric, right? For the 5
Yeah. I think I'm going to do solo electric.
Nice.
I figured that would break it up nicely so it didn't feel like we were all doing the same thing.
Yeah. Cool.
It's not going to be any different than solo acoustic. It'll just sound a little grittier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
You're going to use a metal zone
Yeah,
to
totally.
color that sound.
No, I'm going to be a purist. Guitar straight to amp. I won't even put a tuner in there.
Okay.
It'd be a big mess.
Yeah, you shouldn't tune the guitar.
Never. Are you guys both going to do solo acoustic?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll start off with a little bit of a grungy thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
It'll be fun. I'm really
excited,
looking forward
man.
to it.
And
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that, when we booked it, you said that it would be good for you.
Yeah. When I started kind of playing out again a couple of years ago with the trio, I realized that was a big thing that was missing from my life. I really love being on stage.
Right.
Although I do not enjoy being a singer.
Really?
I enjoy being a songwriter. I do not enjoy being a singer. Being a singer is all anxiety for me. Yeah. In any given song, there's that moment where I'm like, oh God, here comes this note.
Yeah,
Really?
I know what
Okay.
you mean, dude.
Here comes this note. Am I gonna hit it? Am I just gonna embarrass myself? Is my voice gonna crack? Because I can sing, but nobody has ever come to one of my shows being like, oh, wait till you hear this guy's voice.
Right.
You
That's
know?
with me too. And I had that same inner dialogue as well. Like, oh, here comes that note that's always flat. Here it comes. Yeah. Oh, there it was, flat again.
Flat again.
Yeah.
I missed it. Yeah.
Right.
Singing's hard, and it's almost like no matter how much you practice that note, I feel like guitar, you can kind of get there. The problem. It's like, all right, if you just keep shedding,
Just drill it.
It's just a lack of muscle memory, and ultimately vocals are the same. It's a similar muscle memory, but
it's a part of your body.
But I think there is a limit.
element.
I think there's a limitation though. There's just no matter how many, you're like, why can't I sing that in pitch? And it's just I don't know. Luckily, there's auto-tune nowadays, I guess. I don't know.
For me, it feels like the visual element because, when you miss a note on guitar, you see it happen.
Yeah.
And you can be like, oh, I see. That finger's
Got to move it over.
Yeah, it's just not coming down fast enough or it's not coming down hard enough.
Yeah.
Right? When you miss something in vocals, it's all in your body. You have no idea what happened.
Yeah.
Just I guess I just screw this up every time.
Well, you could go on a bender and not sleep for a week and still shred a guitar.
That's exactly right.
But your voice is gonna be
everything
destroyed. Yeah,
Right.
There's a lot of pressure being a singer. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember getting really anxious, the night before shows. You know, and it's always like, is my voice gonna go out? And just drinking tea with honey, and you wake up, and the first thing I usually do is go and see if I got the high there, because if it's not there, then I know I can't sing.
Right.
You know? So I go, all right, my voice is kind of working today. It's good.
Yeah. My biggest anxiety for this show, especially because this will happen to me when I haven't been singing out, which I haven't. Like the last time I did a show as singer-songwriter was a little more than a year ago in Boston. And when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm really anxious singing on stage, I feel like I can't completely inflate my lungs. What'll happen is my breath feels really shallow, and therefore my voice will be a little warbly, a little
100%. It's like a quiver.
Yeah, it's
What
weird
happens is
feeling.
there's an anxiety, right? And once that tension's there,
you can't access your diaphragm.
And with most instruments, there's you don't have to have good posture, but really relaxing and removing tension is the biggest part about playing an instrument. I think guitar, you can develop a lot of bad lazy habits just by the nature of the instrument.
Totally.
A lot of it's coming from your fingers, but drumming, it's a lot about posture. It's you want to play drums like this or however it is.
Yeah.
And one thing that's informed me a lot is just studying violin over the last 3 years.
So you're still doing it?
100%. Yeah.
Badass, man.
It's a long road. It'll hopefully I'll be going down that road for a long time.
You should be a life coach.
I don't know. but but it's all about tension. Like if something sounds bad on the violin, it's because you're holding a weird tension here or in your neck or in your jaw. Like all of it matters. So and then there's like the developing your how you're hearing things in your mind and your ear, like syncing those up. They relate a lot to vocals as well, because it's all mental, and then how your body can like produce what you're hearing in your head. Whereas guitar, 5th fret on the 6th string is going to be an A. If you're in standard,
it's always going to be an A.
But so it's all in your mind, and the violin's kind of like that in a sense, because you're listening. There's no frets, but obviously cello, any like string instrument, and you start. I think it's made me a better singer just from that, because you're really working on your ear constantly, and that's also coming from your mind, which is where singing's happening. So
wow, that makes perfect sense, man. That's cool.
And also, again, just trying to relax, because it's such a tense instrument. Like everything you're doing is tense until you learn how to let go of that, which I haven't, So, but I try to put that into every other thing that I do musically,
That's cool.
You just bring what you learn from other instruments to the other instruments you already play. You're playing bass, you're also playing drums. There's like the same, and the more you understand that, it's just music and how it's gonna, I don't know, come out of you.
That's cool. I've had that experience too, especially with piano. Like, playing like Ben Folds songs on the piano taught me to hear inversions on guitar when other people play them.
Yeah.
Because I've known my inversions as a player for a long time, but listening to other players, when somebody plays a first or second inversion chord, it was always just like, oh, that's a C major, but there's something weird about it.
Yeah, like what is that chord? You're like,
what is that?
Dude, it's an F. It's just got an A in the bass.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, cool.
So like playing piano kind of taught my ears to be like, oh, I know what that is. It's just on guitar instead of piano. So yeah.
But a lot of that's voice leading as well, which I would
totally
assume you know a lot of just kind of playing jazz guitar, and you studied music in school, right?
I did.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think it's a different thing, or for me, because I was not a naturally born musician. So like, I didn't grow up with that transcribing ear where anything like, there's so many people that are just born with it where like, they're like, oh yeah, anything I hear, I can just play it back to you. That wasn't me.
No.
At all. And nowadays it's more, I can do that, but it's taken a really long time, especially complex things like inversions, when you can't see somebody playing and you're like, I know that's a major 7 chord, or I know that's this, I know that's that, but there's something weird about it, right? That like, and being able to hear and be like, oh yeah, that is a major 7 chord, it's just in second inversion.
Well, now that we're geeking on music theory, so if you play a major 7 chord in first inversion, that's also like a minor 6, isn't it? And like, but like, so if you're an F, you do a F major 7 in first inversion, that's like a A minor 6.
All right, so
F
A C E A C E F,
yeah. So like, how do you analyze that? Well, what's the bass doing? Is it playing an F? Okay, then it's an F major 7. You don't.
Yeah, the minor 7, like minor 6 isn't a super common chord.
No, I guess not.
So like. Minor 7 is interesting because the first version of a minor 7 chord is a major 6 chord, which is a pretty common chord, especially in jazz. So that's one of the ones that, and then you can start thinking about like a minor 7 flat 5 chord is first inversion of a dominant 9. Things like that are pretty common.
I can play a G chord.
Yeah.
I can play C add 9.
I hope you play that on the 29th.
The G chord.
Yeah.
I got something new for you, folks.
As you study jazz and you get further into theory, it becomes more about intent. So then it's not even, well, what is that guy playing? Or that dude playing, the all-encompassing.
It's what kind of rig does he have?
Exactly.
No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
It's like, what is that chord intended to represent.
Yeah.
Not only what is it in a literal sense, but what is it intended to represent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun discussing that kind of
I love
subject
that
with
stuff.
music
Love
nerds.
that stuff. Because the deeper you go into it, the more you realize you don't know. Mm-hmm. And that I think that's music in general, is that the better you get at, the more you're just like, wow, I have barely a grasp on this. And I've been doing it my whole life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we've established that none of us know anything. So let's do some songs now.
You guys seem to know a lot. Man.
We're putting on a show, that's all.
Yeah, we're putting on a show. Come to our show.
Yeah,
It's going to be great. We know nothing about this whole music thing. It's going to be a blast.
Are you going to play any inverted chords?
Yeah, dude, come on. I'm going to play... Am I playing that song? Yeah, I'm going to play some weird-ass chords.
Cool.
Yeah. Some inversions, some total bullshit chords that just sound pretty. Yeah. All of
Love
that.
it. Can't wait. Because
Yeah.
I haven't heard I've heard like some of your recordings with you singing. I like it.
Okay.
But I've never heard you do it live.
Yeah, well, it's going to be worse. But with more energy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Worse but more energy. I
Exactly.
like it.
Yeah, like punk rock.
Okay, that's perfect.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for being here. This has been
Thanks
really
for
fun.
having us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil.
Hey,
thank you,
thank
Alex.
you guys.
Yeah.
Hi.
All right, that's a wrap.
Cool.
That was fun.
Funny how things aren't like I thought they would be. Find my inner reflection laughing at me. But there's no use in playing the fool constantly. Do you feel okay? Save your pride for something special. Find that any other place. It's good to hide when you're bound to settle. Hang the chains of defeat around my neck. Can't get it delivered straight 'cause it's got a defect. Calling to say it again, no disrespect. But do you feel okay? Save your pride for something special. Find that any other place. It's good to hide when you're bound to settle. Hey, do you feel okay? Save your pride for something special. Find that any other place. It's good to hide when you're bound to settle. Good to hide when you're bound to settle.